A lot of us, our ego makes us only think about ourselves, see us as separate from somebody else. So we're always doing the comparison game. And we know how that can be. When you start comparing yourself to people, chances are you're going to be a little bit disappointed because you can always find somebody that's doing better than you. And, or you may just think that they're doing better than you, truth be told, because they're not always, but you're always going to look at it from an almost inferior, lack of confidence way. And it's going to put a lot of stress and anxiety on you. So that's the separation. Now think about what society always tries to do. Separate us, right? Because we won't be as happy. And when people are not as happy, when people are miserable, when people are angry, when people are upset, we talk about it all the time. They're easier to be manipulated. Now, when the book focuses on the oneness, when we see each other as a oneness, think about it. Think about all the problems that we see around our country, around the world. Think about every single movement, whether it's the LGBTQ, the Black Lives Matter, feminists, all these different movements, they're based on people not seeing each other as one. Us finding the differences in ourselves rather than focusing on the areas that we are actually alike and that would align us together and attract us to each other. The oneness is what we need to reach for. And the oneness comes about in many different areas. For one, I'll give you an example of oneness. If you see you and your significant other as separate, there's a level of competition there. There's a level of blame, resentment, all these different things that we can find, right? Because we're seeing each other as separate. But in all actuality, we're still connected as one because you do something to that person and it's going to come right back to you, right? You see this person in a particular light, you're being mean to them, that energy is still being put out to them and it's going to be coming right back to you. Now, the oneness comes when we can root for somebody else as if it's ourselves. We heard Rick Ross always talking about it. You got to you got to rep it like you own it. Your friend got a business, I'm repping it like I own it. That's the oneness that we're talking about. That's the oneness of a team. Think about the best teams that you've been on. The oneness goal of winning as a team as one was always greater than seeing everyone as a bunch of different individuals. So y'all take it or leave it. Happiness is key when it comes to our health and everything else in life. It just allows us to be less egotistical, more confident. And with that confidence comes a certain level of acknowledgement and vulnerability, all these different areas that are going to allow us to be just more decent human beings and have better relationships with each other. So I'm already talking too much. What do we got first? What do I want to show you? Oh, all right. So first, we may get right into the video. So we got a mental health crisis. But first, I wanted to talk y'all ear off about ego. And just since we're already talking about it, I'll give you an example. And there was a doctor that I was working with in Staten Island. And the doctor was matter of fact, if I'm questioning it, then I probably shouldn't say it, right? Let's do the mental health crisis first. We're going to get into this video on mental health. I've been actually trying to show this video to y'all for a very long time. So let's get into this. We're going to talk about the word therapy. I know that's a hot topic right now, or it's been a hot topic where people are getting pushed to do therapy. And I just want to get some, just have a little convo about it, get some other people's understanding and perspectives on it, and also get your opinions on it. So hold on, it should already be queued up. Let me just make sure it's being shared. Screen. All right, we're good to go.
New studies suggest that young Americans are talking about depression and anxiety too much, and it's not helping anyone. The New York Times reports that studies done in the UK and Australia found students who underwent training in the basics of mindfulness, cognitive behavioral therapy, and dialectical behavior therapy, and they did not emerge healthier than peers, and some were actually worse off. The Times said this research comes as, quote, mental health has become a central subject in childhood and adolescence. Teenagers narrate their psychiatric diagnoses and treatment on TikTok and Instagram. School systems, alarmed by the rising levels of distress and self-harm, are introducing preventative coursework in emotional self-regulation and mindfulness. Two research psychologists at the University of Oxford said, quote, awareness campaigns were contributing to young Americans self-labeling themselves as having depression or anxiety, though many mental health specialists disagree and argue lack of access to treatment is the bigger problem.
Let's stop right there. So you heard some experts saying that us talking about mental health for so long, or focusing on it for so much right now, is leading to all these self-diagnoses where this person is depressed, anxiety, mental health. We hear it all the time where people just either are self-diagnosing, or talking about somebody else, and it's because it's always getting thrown in our face. Now these doctors, we've already talked about it before. These doctors, their schooling, their journals, their peer reviews, they're all controlled by the money of big pharma. How does big pharma make their money? Off of diagnosing people with mental health disorders and then prescribing them medicine. Now, what's the great business model as far as when it comes to pharmaceuticals? When you break your arm, you can feel it. Sometimes you can see it, right? Something is visibly wrong. It's going to swell up, all these different things. It's a lot harder to diagnose somebody, to make a mistake as far as like if they got a broken arm compared to if they, like, you know what I mean? Like it's harder to convince somebody that they got a broken arm if their arm's just working perfectly. Now, when it comes to the mental health stuff, these pharma companies, in a demonic genius marketing way, let me emphasize demonic, they have figured out that their business plan works very well because they can diagnose somebody and give them medicine without any effects, just by a quote unquote specialist, therapist, whoever it may be, that is able to diagnose this person by asking them certain questions. Are you sad sometimes? Do you get miserable at times? Do you have a lot on your plate? All these things. Now I got anxiety. Now I'm depressed. Now I'm all these other things, these mental health disorders. I'm schizophrenic, all these different things. Why? Do you think they're really doing it so they can make you feel better? Do you think they're really doing it to solve your issue? Or do you think they're doing it so they can prescribe you medicine, which is going to give them a certain level of kickback from the pharmaceutical companies when they're flown out on these, getting flued out on these expensive trips to the islands and whatnot? What do you think? Follow the money, right? It always comes down to that. So the doctors that are on the side, as far as, hey, we're talking about this issue too much, and that's why it's becoming such an issue, that's what I subscribe to. Look at all of the movements that we're dealing with. I mentioned some of them earlier. When you can